In this video, I'm going to explain what evolution is, how it works, and why it's important. So evolution is a simple process of change over time. It explains the diversity of life forms that we see across the globe. So, like, why do we see so many different organisms? Why isn't it all just one species? Like, why isn't it all humans? Well, see, when you look at the different species, like if you look at fish, for example, fish have a backbone. They have hands or fins. So humans also have a backbone and they have hands. So you can see like they have a head and humans have heads. So you can see like certain similarities among organisms. Even plants have they have xylem and phloem in their trunks. And so those are kind of like their circulatory system. It transports nutrients and water throughout the plant, much like the circulatory system in humans transports water and nutrients throughout the blood. So you see these certain similarities, and so you start to wonder like what is the underlying mechanism? How did all these different organisms get produced? And the answer is that it's the process of natural selection mainly that drives evolution. So natural selection is basically it means that it means differential survival and reproduction. So when you have a group of organisms, they're obviously going to reproduce. I mean, that's the definition of life. Life forms have to reproduce. So they're going to reproduce in different numbers. Some organisms are going to produce like a small number of offspring. Other organisms will produce a large number of offspring, and depending on how these offspring survive, and then go on to reproduce themselves, will determine how the population evolves for the most part. So like let's say you have a group of birds, and they're all the same species, and one of these birds lays like 10 eggs, and it has a certain it has like a certain size. It has like a preferential. It has a beak size that enables it to eat like certain nuts in the region that other birds can't really seem to eat because their beak is too small, right? So the birds with the large beaks will have more access to food in the area if they can only eat that size of nut, and the birds with the small beaks can't. So as a result, the birds with the large beak might reproduce more. They might lay more eggs, and then their offspring will also have large beaks because they're going to be like their parents. So it's a so over time, over a long period of time, uh, the birds with the large beaks will increase in the population. So the whole population of these birds will evolve. So the entire population as a whole evolves over time. So if you have a group of organisms, they all die, right? I mean, eventually they just die. But they lay a different number of offspring. So because of this differential reproduction, differential success of each organism, the population as a whole evolves. All the organisms die eventually, but the traits that they pass on to the next generation will increase differentially in frequency. So that's how evolution actually works. I mean, there is genetic drift, which is genetic drift just means like random occurrences that um, don't really don't really operate by natural selection. So like an organism might have an offspring that has an unfavorable trait, but that offspring might like reproduce a lot more, and it's just an unexpected thing that you can't really predict. It's just random chance. Like they just reproduced a lot more, just purely by chance. So that's genetic drift. So yeah, I mean, it explains how we see why do we see so many different types of organisms uh, and the evidence for this is in the fossil record. There's a lot of fossils that they have of intermediary forms of evolution because they have like different fossils for humans and many other organisms. But the evidence today is like if you just look at like the viruses. The viruses are evolving every year. They have a new flu vaccine, right? You can see populations of flies in a laboratory evolving because you can see it because flies lay like a large number of eggs, and they're short-lived organisms, so it's easy to see them evolve. And you can also see it with populations of bacteria easily because they're so short-lived and they reproduce so fast. And yeah, I mean, evolution explains how life originated, ultimately explains how life originated from abiotic matter. So eventually, I mean, originally there was molecules on Earth, and these molecules, over time, there was an original replicator that developed the ability to replicate itself, and that's actually the prerequisite of evolution is a replicator. So once you have a replicator, and if you have a replicator and then and then it replicates itself, and then there's different replicators that replicate, there's differential success in the reproduction, then you can have evolution. And I mean, you don't really see evolution in humans because humans are long-lived and they don't reproduce that fast. Like you have to be pregnant for 9 months, so it's not like you're supposed to see evolution in humans. Although we do observe it by there's data on like the evolution of malaria resistance in Africa, or the evolution of like why are some people lactose intolerant because it's a residue of the past where we didn't have any dairy products, but eventually we evolved the ability to digest lactose with whatever enzyme it is. Yeah, so with evolutionary biology, we can predict, like it has a lot of practical applications for diseases because bacteria and viruses evolve very fast. So if we know how it evolves, then we can predict and create vaccines and immunize people towards those diseases. And it's just really interesting to know like why do we see so many different types of creatures? You know, where did they come from? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. You don't even need the evidence. I mean, there is plenty of evidence, but the process itself just makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I mean, that's evolution. I mean, hopefully I didn't miss anything important, but yeah, hopefully that helped people who want to learn about evolution.